What's up, everybody? How are all my rock stars doing out there? Welcome to another episode of Rocket Live, just as we do here every Tuesday. Thanks for joining us a little bit on the later side if you're tuning in on the East Coast. Normally, I do the show every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And yes, if you were joining me earlier, you did see me on with another episode earlier today. Welcome to the second part of the doubleheader. And here come the comments already coming in. We got Donald Creamer checking in. Hello, Chris and Pedro. What is up, Donald? How are you? Welcome, everybody, to the show. Thank you so much for watching live with us here right now. And thank you for everybody who will be watching the replay of this later and eventually listening to the audio version of this. Thank you all for your support. Please make sure you remember to subscribe wherever you're watching this right now, especially if you're on YouTube, and because it really not only helps me in the channel, but it also helps the guests that I have on. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Do all the things because it is very, very appreciated. I am joined right now by a guest I'm really excited to have on. I've been waiting to have you on for a while, man, and this is really great. So Pedro Maciel is on my podcast today and the live stream. So hey, man, welcome to Rocket Live. Awesome to have you.
Appreciate it, Chris. Thank you for having me, brother. Again, it's an honor to be on this stage. I've come across your live streams a number of times on LinkedIn, and again, some of the best production. I like the music in the beginning and the intro, so that's awesome. Thank you for having me.
No, absolutely, and I really appreciate you taking the time out to come on, and obviously being flexible too with the time zones and all that. So it's very cool, and I'm happy that we could both finally jump on here. So what I love about this is that, and we're going to talk about a lot because Pedro is a professional podcaster. He's involved in construction safety as his daytime gig. But also a lot of what we'll talk about too centers around a bit of Clubhouse, because honestly, I wouldn't even be sitting here with Pedro today if it wasn't for meeting him in Clubhouse and kind of wandering into his room on Clubhouse. I guess it's probably been almost like a month and a half ago on a I think it was like a lazy Sunday morning. I came in there and I just saw the title of the room and I was like, let me check this out. And boom, before you knew it, I was up there and Pedro and I were connecting and going and just talking all about all kinds of really cool stuff when it comes to podcasting. So before we dive into some of that, I would just want to set up context a little bit for everybody watching and listening right now. So tell me a little bit about yourself. I did mention a little bit at the top that you're involved in construction safety and that you are a professional podcaster, but if you could just kind of walk us through the highlights of that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And hopefully everybody can hear me okay. I seen that Donald said he couldn't hear me, but I try to raise my volume just enough so that way it doesn't start to peak. But yeah, no, as you said, Chris, I'm a safety professional by day. I'm a podcast host and live stream host by night. Still working a day job and then coming home and, at a hotel room and still doing the after hours day job, which it entails. But no, I got into safety probably about 11, 12 years ago. I've been doing it, for a long time. Before that, I was an actual laborer. That's how I got into safety. Prior to that, I was in the Navy, U.S. Navy. I was on a submarine, so that right there is kind of crazy in itself.
That is crazy, man. I couldn't imagine being in a submarine at the bottom of the ocean. That is nuts.
So, after getting out of the military, I transitioned into an admin role. I was a medical records clerk, and I really didn't like sitting behind a desk. So then I started, jumping into the refinery work and became a laborer. And then finally somebody gave me the opportunity to be a safety professional for one turnaround. And then one turnaround turned into three turnarounds. And then next thing you know, I'm safety manager for an entire company, and then became a regional safety manager, doing an expat role in Mexico. Then came back to the States and have been doing it ever since.
That's awesome. I love that, because I love too how you've been able to sort of transition what you've been doing, what you do for your day job, and then turn it into podcasting. So, I love that because it's just I find it fast. I find it fascinating when anybody can take what they do as their normal day job, which you wouldn't. I think sometimes consider people be like, oh, what's interesting about that or where it is, but like you have then turned what you do during the day into a podcasting in a career in a way, like a whole second thing that you do, and you've got great guests and you tie a lot of the content in there. So why don't you talk about because I have had the awesome opportunity of catching your podcast live stream too. It's a podcast and live stream several times, and I think it's awesome. It's called the X Factor of Saftey, and I really do think it's if anybody out there hasn't had a chance to check out the live stream or anything like that, I highly recommend you check it out. So I'm going to let Pedro talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, I started podcasting back in 2019. It was the summer of 2019, and I was listening to a lot of podcasts, and, that kind of sparked my interest. I was like, hey, maybe I can talk about something that I'm interested in, which was the safety profession. Trying to figure out the solution to a problem, and the problem being to try to stop people from getting hurt on job sites. And how I was going to do that was talk about some of the ins and outs of the safety profession. Needless to say, I did 3 episodes with what was once called the Safety Guy Rundown. Right. And those legacy episodes are hidden in the archives. Will not come back out.
They're in the vault, deep in the vault.
And I did it with Podbean on my phone with bad headphones. So, and while I was traveling, for work to the job site, I'd sit there and record, and you hear all the audio from the surround sound. Yeah. But no, transitioning into 2019, I took the rest of the year off, and then 2020 came around and I rebranded, and I said, you know what, let's really dive into this, take it seriously, and try to bring safety to the forefront, but make it sound sexy. You want to sound, want it to be engaging. So I figured out, hey, the X factor of safety. Everybody has an X factor. Everybody has a special uniqueness about them, and that's how that ended up coming about.
Yeah, and what I love about that, because it's something I do talk a lot about on the show, it's a reoccurring theme of how people are able to really utilize what they're into and their strengths and turn that into like their personal brand. And you took something that's very much like, it's construction safety. It's a very serious subject. There's a lot to go on. There's a lot that happens there. There's a lot of moving parts, but you never think about it as this, like you said, as this like sexy kind of a thing. And and what you did is you basically took the content that you knew, things that you were interested in, things that you have expertise in, and turned it into basically a talk show, which is awesome. Which now you took something that was kind of like, oh, I don't know if this is something that would ever be of interest to me, to like now it is, because I'm hearing 2 people talk about things that I not really used to hearing people talk about or being exposed to, and you turn it into a podcast, and on top of that, like a podcast that and a live stream that people are like really into seeing.
Yeah, and it again, my first episode, my 4th episode was actually a good friend of mine, Kurt Brannon. I had interviewed him, and we worked in the steel fabrication factory together. So he was a foreman, I was a safety guy. So kind of getting that interaction between production and safety, and seeing where those lines intersect, seeing some of the ups and downs over the years of his career, of my career, how we could make it better. And then, just started doing interviews. I did do some monologue diving into what OSHA, what the OSHA newsletter is, what a JSA is, those types of things that give awareness to the safety profession, especially if you're a new safety professional getting out of college and coming into the construction site, stuff that you might need to know.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had a couple comments I just kind of want to recognize real quick. I did throw them up on screen, but we got Donald up here right now. The cool thing about Pedro's podcast is it goes in many directions, paying it forward and learning something new every episode. And we had Pat Fiore checking in too. Hey, Chris, interesting guest. Great story about something we never hear or know much about. So I absolutely agree. It's what I was saying before. It's like it's not something you know, as somebody who's not involved in construction or, you know, safety industry in itself, hearing the things that you talk about and what you even just said is like that's fascinating to me, because it's like this whole other world of like language, culture, but it's so important, and yet we just don't think about it. And the people who are behind making sure things are run safe, they're done right, like that, you know, to hear it kind of discussed and then talked about in like such a conversational tone is just great, because it's just truly amazing how you can take something that's, I don't know, you just don't think about it and turn it into like a really interesting conversation. That's why I like watching the show, because of that. It's just it's like something I just never deal with, but yet like I get to hear this like awesome conversation between you and your guests. And you have a lot of different kinds of guests on too. So I mean they range from, they're in the safety world, but they're not all safety. Why don't you talk about sort of the mix and mash of guests that you do have on?
Yeah, and I try to incorporate safety in everything that we do. You know, and you say that you're not involved in safety, but you use a car every day.
Right. Yeah.
You travel the highway. There's road work. There's construction zones that you go into. So all of the stuff that encompasses construction and safety goes along with that. Even some of the DIY stuff that happens at home. You know, building, you know, certain
True.
stuff, using
Yeah.
certain tools. You have to be safe. You know, again, we don't think about it being at home. You're like, oh, I'm at home, I'm not going to get hurt. But you
Right.
don't have your safety glasses using
Yeah.
a saw, you know, you can probably get something in your eye.
Yeah.
And as far as the guests, I try to, you know, encompass their story and give them a medium to be able to tell their story. And I try to find where I can interject that safety role, that safety aspect. You know, I've had people from, you know, that do glass blowing, and again, that's there are some safety concerns dealing
Of
with
course.
open flame, you know, gases and whatnot, and that's how I ended up doing that. You know, in the mental health, you know, space, doing some of those guests that have expertise in, you know, I had a roundtable with, you know, 4 or 5 different guests that were in the mental health space to help veterans, to help, you know, and this was at the height of the pandemic last year. You know, helping the first responders and, you know, the nurses that are, the doctors that are in, you know, in essence in the trenches. And we just talked about mental health, how to get
Right.
over it, how to help. And so I like to not only talk about safety, but incorporate some of the stuff that a safety professional deals with, culture building, you know, one-on-one talks about mental health, open door policies, you know, all of those types of things that you would find out in other roles, you find it in the safety role as well.
Yeah, and I think that's a really key point, and that's something I didn't even realize until you said it. And is that, you know, it's not about just about the physical safety, but yes, the mental safety as well. You know, and I think that's a really interesting point. I did not occur to me until you literally just said that. And the other thing you said too, which I completely agree with, is I usually get hurt more at my home than anywhere, anywhere.
Yeah. It's and it's funny when you know, people laugh and like, oh, I'm not going to get hurt, or you know, they're
Right.
putting, you know, they're putting ladders on top of their air conditioning units to get on top of the roof to put
Yeah.
Christmas lights up, like,
Mhm.
you know, we have to do better. And again, those types of things, and injuries is what I look at. Those types of injuries can be avoided. People can avoid having those types of mishaps if they just take a little extra precaution, a little extra step, and think about what they're going to do before they do it. You know, do I need my glasses on? Should I use gloves when I'm lifting up this boards with nails? You
Yeah.
know, and do I have to have my glasses and long pants on, long sleeves on when I'm weeding in case a rock kicks up and comes back at me? Those types of things that, again, I go out in my flip flops and shorts and
Yeah.
weed and whatnot, and you don't think you're going to get hurt.
Yeah, it's so true. And usually it's because I've done those things the first time and gotten hurt that then I learned my lesson that, like, you know what, I probably shouldn't be mowing the lawn in flip flops or or like weeding or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Had a couple of incidents that way that, you know,
Yeah.
you learn. And again, safety guys and gals are the worst. We are the unsafest people at home because we practice we try to practice what we preach, but when we're home, we're like, oh damn, I'm done. And not saying it's a bad thing, but it's like, you think about safety day in and day out on the out in the field. When you're at home, you think that it's second nature and becomes repetition, but sometimes we forget what to do as safety professionals. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And what do we have? We have another comment here by Pat. Does Angel have a service that offers signage or messaging to be placed in homes, in schools, in parks, and other public places to teach people how to be safe?
Yes, there is signage that's out there for safety in the public schools, in the parks, like on swings, some of the stuff coming into the parks on the merry-go-rounds, those types of things. And usually at parks, you are accompanied, or your children should be accompanied by an adult to read those, that signage. As far as in schools and other public places, there is a sector that is mandated to put signage up for certain things, your sidewalks, pedestrian traffic, the number of parking spots that you have to have on, in a parking lot for, disabled people, and you have to be able to accommodate those types of things. So yes, there is services that offer that signage, any kind of signage company that, depending on what sign you need. And, you look up the parameters online. OSHA has a couple of different measurements that you can find on the OSHA.gov site. Any site that you would get your signs from, they can make them up, and they make them the reflective, normal DOT signage. So
there you go. And then we've got Donald again checking in. It's all about managing the risk, looking at things through a different lens, no matter what business or industry you may be in. And is this true? Do you also mow the grass in bubble wrap?
Sometimes.
Yeah, I would find it pretty hard. I think, maybe I would, instead of wearing pants, I just wear bubble wrap around my legs.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
Yeah. So I want to talk about too. So, you have the safety thing and that world and the podcast that you're doing there. Then, so let's transition over into, because I think this all ties in simultaneous, is the world of Clubhouse, right? And what's going on there. And sort of, this is how we connected, but then also how this other podcast that you're doing came about and what's happening there. Because I feel like you and I've been on Clubhouse, and for anybody that doesn't know what Clubhouse is, let me set this up super quick. So Clubhouse is a mobile-only app right now. As of this recording, it's only available on iOS, and it's an invite-only app. And basically, it's the best way to describe it is it's kind of like being at like a dinner party with like 20 or 25 people, and you could participate in that dinner party, or you could just hang back and listen in. It's like live podcasting meets like talk radio, but like a whole social community end of it. I feel like it's all those things all in one. It's feels like a very giant, like awesome, like social experiment that we're all living in real time. And I got on the app on December 25th on Christmas Day. And I feel like I've been on it and it's changed my life. and I feel like you've been on sort of around that same time, right? Because I feel like it was like after the holidays that you and I sort of connected in the room that you were running.
Yeah, no, it was January 3rd, I think it was. January 4th, something like that. Right after Christmas, after the New Year.
Yeah, and since then, for anybody that is not experienced on the app yet, I definitely recommend that. You'll get on at some point. They are going to release it. They keep saying they're going to release the Android in April, springtime. So then everybody will be on it. But it's really been an amazing app to create community and meet people. And I've already met so many amazing people. And Pedro, I would never have met Pedro if it wasn't for this app. So with that being said, this app allows you to create communities and rooms, as they call them. And the rooms are based on all different topics, anything that you're possibly interested in, from business to personal to hobby, whatever it is. And I met Pedro because Pedro had a room about podcasting. And me being involved in podcasting and live streaming, I said, oh, this would be great because as much as you talk on this app, you also learn. And I've learned a lot. And it's great to be a very active listener on this app. So the topic intrigued me. I went into the room. It was a small room. And lo and behold, Pedro was in there talking with a few other people. And I got sucked right into this conversation. And that's kind of how it goes, sort of like real life when you're at like a networking event. And so why don't you talk a little bit about, because I'd love to hear now from your side of things, like you getting involved in the app, and then because now you've turned it into a regular room and all these other things. So just talk a little bit about it from your perspective and how things have evolved for you.
Yeah, no, it's definitely been one of those, one of those things and one of those apps that you didn't think the growth and the people were going to be there starting out.
Yeah.
But once I got on the app, it was very interesting to interact with people across the world. So I got on, like we said at the beginning of the year, and the reason why I got on, believe it or not, one of our good friends from LinkedIn, Rich Cardona, ended up, posting up one of his great live streams talking about the app. So as soon as I got done listening and watching that,
Right.
I downloaded the app, and then I was like, shit, I don't know anybody on the app yet or that I know of.
Yeah.
And luckily, shout out Zachary Babcock. I guess he's seen that, I came on, he ended up letting me in.
Right.
And then it was over from there. So fast forward to now, I started a room about podcasting because that's what I like. And I figured I wouldn't do it so much about safety because I already have the podcast about safety, but I wanted to, see what new podcasters were thinking about. Just have a good old chat about podcasting, seeing how I could help. And again, I don't know everything. I've learned a whole bunch being on Clubhouse, being and listening to some of those rooms. But now, kind of seeing that there was a need to give some very tangible, real life, real world experience through my struggles. Trying to, learn the podcast and live stream. And so just started doing a regular room, met some great people. And in certain rooms, I noticed Tanner Campbell and Roman Prokupchuk.
Love that.
Yeah, no, he if he's watching, shout out Roman. But I said it right because we always talk about how to say his name right. But no, we found that we mesh well because the ideas that we had and the message and value we wanted to bring was the same. So we started connecting more in the rooms over time. And then we started to, host and co-moderate each other's rooms and curate these rooms and these conversations through our joint interests, which then led to the RTP, the Real Talk Podcasting podcast. So it's pretty, pretty interesting how that came about.
Yeah, it's amazing because it's once again, it's what I love about Clubhouse is it's kind of like the technology's there, but it's like just old school principles. Like it kind of reminds me too of also the old bulletin boards back on the early days of the internet, and and even like the party lines kind of a thing. It has that throwback quality to it, but yet the principles are still the same. It's building community, building relationships, meeting new people, and then creating like new ideas and supporting each other. And it's amazing to me how much has happened with the people I've met in a very short amount of time on this app, and how people have congealed and found their groups and just been able to like really support and help each other create. And so what I love about what you and Tanner and Roman are doing is that you guys have created this community on Clubhouse. and you do it every day, which is basically the other thing. The other parallel I could run here is it's also like a radio station, like I was saying, the talk radio side, and I love how you treat Clubhouse as if you guys are programming a talk radio station, and it's great because you have the morning show, the afternoon, the lunch, the afternoon drive, and then the evening show. You have it all like played out, and it happens every day. And for anybody watching and listening to this right now, if you're on Clubhouse, I even if you're not into podcasting and it's not your thing, like that's totally cool. Like just come into the rooms and listen because there's a lot of great people. But I love that it's got these times where it happens like a show every day.
Yeah, no, and we figured, again, talking behind the scenes of our rooms, right, and while we're hopping in and out and, messaging each other, we figured, how do we cover the entire day? How do we make right, that span? And again, 24 hours isn't ideal right now, but right, it is something that we have talked about. But we definitely looking at the bigger picture. Okay, I have the morning chat because I'm a morning person. I get up for work right, anyway. So while I'm getting up, getting my coffee ready, I can have that podcast morning chat. Right. A couple of other good content creators and curators that have been in there started the lunch hour. Mike Ham, shout out Mike Ham. Yeah. And then Tanner ends up taking the afternoon drive, which is his afternoon drive, or when he's in his studio doing, work, actual technical work on what he does. Mm-hmm. And then, Roman's podcast After Dark, just, that's more of a open dialogue, really, getting around the mindset and why we do what we do, personal stories. So it's, trying to just trying to corner the market and make sure that the entire day is filled with tangible, good, actionable items that you can use in your day to day.
Yeah, and that's what I love about it, because I have learned so much from being in those rooms and hearing the questions that are asked, which is also too the other valuable aspect of listening, because having other people come in, because it's not just you guys talking. So for anybody that has it, like, it's not just the three of them being up there and just talking. Like, they're answering like really great questions, and hearing the different questions that are asked really get you to think, and then listening to those answers. And you guys will work things out in real time, which I really dig. So it's not like, oh, we've got, sometimes you guys got the answer right away, and other times it's like, you know what, let me look that up really quick. And then it's like, and I love that because it's so real. It's like, it's just trying to help people find answers to questions. And I love the support that you give everybody who comes in and asks the questions. And some people are experienced, and some people are literally like just putting on they're doing their first episode. And some people actually, I listen to some and they're still like thinking about doing it. They haven't even actually gotten to that point yet. So I love that you touch all different walks of life are in there, and wherever people are, whatever stage they're at. And you guys really do a great job, I think, of supporting everybody who comes in and out and giving some really great solid advice. And I love now how that's sort of transitioned from the Clubhouse like community, like the live show every day, to now there's the RealTalk podcast that happens. And you guys are, as of this recording, 2 episodes in. Am I right about that?
Yes, episode 2 dropped Monday.
Yeah, which so is that like every Monday it drops? Is that the schedule, or is it just sort of like once a week? Or
so the way we figured what we'll do is we'll take everything that we talk about in a whole throughout the week. Mm-hmm. We record on Fridays and we post on Monday, and we jump into some of the trending news around the podcasting live streaming space. Mm-hmm. Some of the marketing tactics, techniques, and audio engineering and sound design from that perspective, and we'll encompass all of that. We take little segments, we break it out. We even answer some of the questions that we get from Clubhouse. Like I know on Fridays, we have a ask your questions for the podcast. Yeah. So it's involving the community, and a lot of the community that we've built this podcast around has actually helped build up RealTalk Podcasting. The website, there's some actual community members from Clubhouse that have curated for us, with some of the blogs and articles that they've posted. So it's just making sure that what we put out is good, solid advice. It's not a copy and paste. We actually put some of the stuff into, try it, our own experience with it. And then, again, I like involving the community and talking with the community about what they see throughout the week.
Yeah, and I think that's really important because everybody, I know every time I do my podcast or a live stream, I always encounter something that, I didn't know how to do, or a different technique I want to try. And, I'm just always trying to evolve it. I mean, I started this thing was originally done as 10-minute video interviews I would do with people on Zoom, and then cut it together and then put it out on just LinkedIn. And that was kind of it. And then I tried to start doing an audio version up, but along the way, then I got approved for the LinkedIn Live. And that's when things really opened up. And I was like, all right, I'm going to really start pushing this. And I experimented with other platforms. I had another platform I used before I switched over to StreamYard here. And so far I've been really happy with this, but listening to the rooms and the people talk, and then what you guys have been doing with the podcast, I've been able to really learn and try to help level up my game. I still don't have a Rode Podcaster Pro yet, so I still don't have a board. I still go direct USB right into my computer here, so I haven't gotten the board yet. That's my next thing I want to invest in.
But it's okay, and see, that's the beauty of podcasting. You can start off on the you can be a minimalist when it comes to podcasting. You have a mic, you can plug it into your computer, you have a voice, you have a message.
True.
Put it
Very
out
true.
there. And then as you progress, you get some marketing dollars coming in, you have some sponsorships or ad revenue, and then that's where you level up your microphone. You get the audio interface, you get the board, and it's over time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell people that all the time, don't let technology be the barrier that keeps you from doing it, because you could literally just create a podcast with a game mic, or, you can even just start with your headphones just to get going. I mean, you said it, even though I know they're deep in the vault, but the thing is you did it, you started doing it, you took the first step, and then you naturally just wanted to get better from a production value standpoint, but it didn't stop you from doing it. You knew you wanted to do it, and you just did it, and you just dove in on it. And then through regular progression, okay, now I want to get better. I'd like my mic and my sound to be better. I want this to get better. And then you just push yourself to be better, but never let the reason why you aren't doing it is because, well, I don't have a mic, I don't sound like it. Just start doing it, because you also have to practice at it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the beauty of learning, and I like talking about the podcasting and the learning experience, because again, all walks of life, and we learn differently. Sometimes we have to put our hands on certain things. Right. Podcast is an audible format. Some people are visual, so that's where the live streaming comes in. Talking about your camera setup and lighting to to offset what you don't want to be in a dark room, but if we're strictly talking about podcasting, the audio has to be good, and your message could be great. You can be dropping loads and loads of gems and nuggets out there, but if your audio is crap, nobody's going to listen to it. Right. So once you get the audio down, even if it is off of your phone, even if it is just with a pair of headphones, then you can grow, set the foundation, start, and then move up from there. And I say that, just start. Make sure that you have a plan. Write it down. What is your podcast going to be about? What kind of guests would you like to have in the future? Maybe it's not going to be, an interview base right now, but it'll be monologue. What are you going to talk about? Are you going to be able to talk for 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I got to tell you, that's something that I am my biggest hurdle, and I said I was going to do more of it this year, and I haven't done as much of it as I want, but is the solo show of just ripping it. I'm so used to interviewing guests all the time that I have yet to really, I think maybe since this year started, I think I've done like 1 or 2 solo shows, I think. And I didn't go long. I mean, I maybe went for like 10, 15 minutes tops just on a topic, but it's definitely for me, it's definitely more mental than anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and see those monologue shows, believe it or not, like with the live stream. And I was the same way when I started live streaming. I had to pivot into live streaming because they gave me LinkedIn Live. I was like, shit, I applied, I applied at the beginning of 2020, didn't get it. And then I want to say maybe about mid-March, going into April, I applied again. And 2 weeks later, they were like, yeah, here you go. But from January up until March, right. I was posting a lot. I was engaging in the community.
Yeah.
I was, doing podcasts. I was, just putting out there content that was relevant to, the safety space and the mental health space. Because, again, the beginning of the pandemic started. We didn't know about it, but kind of getting out in the forefront. And they gave me LinkedIn Live, and I was like, shit, now I have to really,
yeah.
I have to do it. I don't know how I'm going to get in front of the camera and be able to talk for 20 minutes. Right. But I did it. And then having guests on and learning how to use StreamYard and how to curate and create this content that we do, the graphics, and Canva's my best friend. Anybody that's out there, Canva.
Dude, I am in Canva about 1,000 times a day. I don't even know. I don't even remember what life was like before Canva at this point.
No. It is one of the greatest, Canva, for those that do not know what Canva is, it is the best web-based platform for content creation. Mm-hmm. Any graphic,
hands down,
prints, anything that you can think of, Canva probably has it. So,
yeah. Yeah, they actually, too, they just integrated a couple new features that I just discovered. Like, even I was trying to do a how you could do like the mock-ups for like, hey, you got an ebook or something like that. Mm-hmm. And they actually just launched in their like, the template stuff. They actually have now a mock-up generator in there now, which I was like, oh my God, this is great. Because I was using, I think, like Place It or something like that. And I was like, this is great. Like, yep. It's so like you could think about it, and then they more than likely have gotten it, or they're on their way to putting it on there. But yeah, Canva is like my best friend for sure when it comes to all the content that I'm creating with, that I put out there on social, and even this with the live stream I've done, the backgrounds and stuff I've done in Canva, the countdowns I made in Canva. So it's all in there. It's all in there. You just got to play. You just play mm-hmm. and experiment.
Yeah, no, definitely. And again, having an app like that, before Canva and even before, some of the free versions, you had Photoshop and Illustrator and those types of things, which the learning curve for those is so high.
It's so high.
But now with Canva, I can upload a picture. I can, add a couple of elements, put some cool text, make it the color palette that I want, download it in a PNG. At 1080 by 1080, which is your Instagram post.
Yeah.
They and what's cool is they give you all the sizes for everything that you have.
They do. And you can create your own custom size if you want as well, which is nice. I actually even saw that they have a Clubhouse template in there now, which is, it's fun. I was playing around with it and trying to like make it a little bit more like brand, but it's like, there it is. You type in Clubhouse and it comes up as to promote your Clubhouse rooms or pictures or whatever, if you have anything coming up. So even that's now up to date, mm-hmm. which is great.
Get on the app. Get on the app if you can.
Get on the app.
If you're an Android user, I'm sorry, you gotta wait.
Or you can do what a few of my friends have done, which is go buy a refurbished iPhone and have that for a couple months until it releases on Android, and then switch your account over. So let's just, and I know it's like Clubhouse is the rage and all that. But the one thing that I do, which has been a big discussion on Clubhouse that we've talked about, is that, and I don't think it is. I mean, Clubhouse isn't the new podcasting. However, I feel like there's a lot of potential with this app to really integrate like what we're all doing on podcasts and live streams in integrating that app. I mean, how do you see that working? And I mean, an early app it's been around maybe a year at this point, if that, because before everybody was on it. But and I listen to the town halls and I hear what they're working on. But from your perspective, like, how do you see this working with podcasts? Because I don't think podcasts aren't in any danger of going away. I don't think.
No. Podcasting is at its it's in its prime, believe it or not, or getting to its prime with all the podcasts that have come about, all the different podcasts and content creators that have flourished through the pandemic, through 2020, and it put a lot of creativity behind people that did not feel they were creative out the go, but then they started a podcast and figured, man, this is really creative. I can really dive into my story. I can really dive into what I'm used to. Clubhouse is, in my opinion, is going to be a supplement to the podcast community. One, because I can have a podcast with a guest, and then we record. So before the episode releases, I can have that guest come onto a Clubhouse room and have some Q&A prior to, or maybe after that episode drops, and people can say, hey, I want to have a Q&A with that person, and we get in a room and have a Q&A. I know that on Clubhouse, people have been doing some of their podcasts live.
Yeah.
They record their podcasts. They have, Clubhouse going through their Rodecaster Pro or their Zoom P4. They end it, and then they start bringing people on stage to also record the Q&A into that. So I don't think it's gonna kill podcasting. It's gonna supplement and if not bring more to podcasting in a whole.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, that's where I see it going for sure. And it'll be interesting to see the controls that they start, implementing more as this app grows with, they still keep talking about putting in a record function built into the app at some point, and some other functionalities too that would, really benefit like podcasting and reusing the content, as well. Because I mean, I know that's the thing is like you get into these conversations and they're great. But it'd be like, hey, wow, it'd be nice to have a recording of this to so everybody can use as content to repurpose on their social channels. Obviously, and if you are using Clubhouse and you do want to record, you do have to make sure you get everybody's permission, because right now, if you hook up a device to record Clubhouse, a little red warning comes up saying that you don't have permissions and all that, and that you will get thrown off the app if you violate that. So if you are doing secret recordings, I would say don't do that at all, because if you get caught, you're going to be in a lot of trouble, unless you have everyone's permission who's in that room to do that recording and reuse it. Because I know there's a lot of shenanigans going on.
Lots of shenanigans going on. And don't miss it up for everybody else if you are doing it. And I'm talking to those people that are doing it on the fly, just not letting anybody know, being very shady. You're going to get kicked off the app. You're going to miss it up for everybody. So please stop.
Yes, absolutely. Please stop, because it is true. You are going to screw it up for all of us for sure. And then nobody's going to want to come on the app, because they're all going to feel like they're being secretly recorded, and that'll be the end of that. So, so please heed Pedro's words there. I know we're getting close to the end, and I don't want to keep you too much longer. I appreciate your time. Just wanted to talk really quick about some of the people out there who could be watching and listening to this right now, and want to, we talked a little bit about sort of just diving in and getting used to it and going to do it. Don't worry so much at the very beginning about tech, just get into the rhythm of doing it. What other sort of, advice or tips can you give to anybody? And I know we do this on Clubhouse, but for those that aren't involved or doing all that, what sort of steps can someone really follow to really kind of get started? Maybe they've done a podcast already and, they're just unsure and they have some other questions.
Yeah, no, definitely. Number one advice is understand why you're getting into podcasting. You have a purpose, you have a why, you have an answer to a problem, that's why you get into podcasting, to spread value. If you're getting into podcasting because you think you're going to make bukus of money like Joe Rogan, don't do it. Joe Rogan is Joe Rogan because he's Joe Rogan. You know, having Elon Musk on Joe Rogan, podcast, that's what makes Joe Rogan Joe Rogan, right?
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying that you're not ever going to reach those numbers, but yes, do we want to get to 1 million downloads a month? Of course. Start out with what you know and what you can bring to your audience. Figure out who your audience is. Maybe who you think your ideal audience is totally opposite of what your real audience is going to be, depending on what the content you're going to put out there. Right. Starting out, figure out your hosting service again, and we go in depth in some of the rooms. But are you going to go the free route, which there's some free podcast hosting services out there, or if you can, afford a little bit of spend, go with maybe a paid version, somebody that gives you a little more analytics, which then you can actually see yourself grow being a new podcaster. Those are things that you have to, take into consideration. After that, start recording. Get familiar with the microphone, whatever microphone you have, whether it be, a $50 microphone from Amazon, whether it be, a pod mic, $100 microphone from, B&H. So just get familiar with that, figure out what works for you. And then, you build upon that, set your foundation to grow. Because with a stable foundation, that's what you can do. You can grow very, very quickly, but taking those right steps, having a good foundation.
That's awesome. That's solid advice. I mean, that's, and I think that's universal all around. But, I think for people who want to get in there and they're unsure, or maybe they do have like lofty goals, it's like, yeah, I mean, you said it right. Like Joe Rogan's Joe Rogan. But you know what? And also Joe Rogan didn't just become an overnight success. He's also worked years and years and years being involved in TV and radio and being out there. And then, and then he started a podcast. And, but that's, once again, it didn't just happen overnight. And, and there's very few people that get to that level. I mean, there's maybe a handful I could think of that are on that level where they're doing those insane numbers and just nationally recognized. There's a lot of good podcasts out there, but yeah, if your goal is to sit there and make it into a money machine from day one, then I think you're barking up the wrong tree.
No, and the podcast isn't going to be the money machine. You are going to be the money machine because you have a service, you have a course, you have a book that you can then kind of incorporate that. Hey, if you like the content that you're hearing, here's the call to action. Go subscribe to my course. Go get my book. Here's a free ebook that I have for everybody. Here's a PDF format of, a newsletter, those types of things. And then you build upon what you already have, which is your expertise.
Yeah, well said. Well said. So with that, I'm going to let you go because I know that you've had a long day and you'd like to get to relaxing and grabbing some grub and all that great stuff. So I want to thank you so much for jumping on today and hanging out with us and spending some time and chatting it up and answering some questions and sharing your knowledge and your expertise and your stories. So thank you so much for coming on today. I appreciate it, Pedro.
No, thank you for having me, Chris. Hopefully your audience gains a little bit of value out of this episode. And again, we'll see you around the clubhouse.
Absolutely. Every day, man. My favorite room in the morning is to wake up, turn on my phone, and boom, there you guys are. It's great. It's like listening to your favorite radio station. So nice, I love it. Nice. I love it. So with that, I want to thank everybody so much out there who's been watching live with us today, hanging out, joining us in the comments and listening to us and overall just having a good time. I want to thank everybody who will be watching a replay of this episode, as well as those who will be listening to the audio version later on down the line. I encourage you all to like, share, and subscribe wherever you are watching this right now. And absolutely, please reshare these episodes because, as I said at the top, it not only helps the channel and the content grow and get exposed, but it also helps the guests first and foremost that I have on here to help them get their information out there to everybody in your network. So I want to thank you all once again, and please make sure you check back every single Tuesday. I do Rocket Live every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is part 2 of an amazing doubleheader of a day, and I'm so glad that we can make it happen. So I will see you guys next week on Rocket Live and hopefully in and around Clubhouse. So remember, be authentic, be yourself, and always remember to rock it.